People I don't think always like to talk about crime, but we've got to address it. I mean, crime has become such an interesting issue because we've not been able to define it very well as we've gone through these last 3 very strange years here in our area, but in general dealing with COVID and then now dealing with post-storm. Crime is just kind of hard to define. We've got to spend a lot of time talking about what to do, how to do it, and I know you've spent some time talking to some of our local officials about that.
We have, in fact, spent a couple of hours last week with Sheriff Sonia here in Terrebonne Parish and seeing the new facilities and all their capabilities, the investments they're making, the efficiencies they're incorporating in. But, Keith, one thing we have to all keep in mind, just a little bit over to the east of where we are now, New Orleans recently ranked the murder capital of the world. We've seen some big spikes in violent crime in Baton Rouge, and there's really no area that's immune to increasing crime rates. And so we've been working to try to bring some targeted investments. The State Crime Lab, for example, has a 1-year backlog right now in processing evidence. So you may have a crime committed, you may have all the evidence that proves it, but it's going to take 1 year, which means that criminal is out on the streets, out on bond for 1 year. In many cases, committing other crimes. So just really trying to work closely with our law enforcement officials, working closely with our DAs and others, making sure that they have the resources they need, that the laws are written in ways that hold people accountable, that judges are imposing the appropriate bonds and not just slapping people on the wrist and letting them back out. I was talking to one DA up north of here that was telling us that he has some criminals that are out on 3 bonds at the same time. They committed a crime, released on bond, committed a second crime, arrested again, released on bond, and a third time. I mean, that's not okay. It's not. Yeah. And so we brought some resources to the table to allow for DNA evidence to be processed, not in a year, but in about a week and a half. And so just trying to bring more solutions to the table like that. And at the end of the day, it's all about holding people accountable for their actions.
Well, and efficacy of those processes, right? Because, boy, you don't want something to get thrown out. It's got to be precise when we're holding people accountable.
Yeah.
We got to make sure that we get the evidence right and make sure that the evidence gets logged correct, all of those things. But that takes man hours, and it takes the right information to be able to do that and the right tools to do that. And so a lot of those monies are going towards that, which is exciting.
They are, and look, these investments are all guided by our conversations with, again, folks like Sheriff Saunier and Sheriff Weber and other folks in the region that are, the people that are out there on the street actually fighting crime on a daily basis.
Well, I can tell you we're very fortunate down here that all of our municipalities work so very well together, be it HPD here in Houma, Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office, same thing, City of Thibodaux, Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office. Yep. They all work so very well together. The only thing that I can liken it to is all of our levy boards that work so very well together. And it's got to be nice for people like you to be able to say, hey, listen, if we give this money here, they're going to all work together to do something right with it, huh?
No, you're exactly right. It's critical, and that comparison to levies it's a good example because you build up levies in one area. If you don't have it in the adjacent one, it's just going to flood them. And
right.
Same thing happens with crime. Is that crime? The criminals don't recognize parish boundaries or city boundaries or anything else, and it is important that all those the sheriffs and law enforcement communities have good, close working relationships, and they do, and it ensures that at the end of the day that you're holding the criminals accountable, that those people are being put in jail, they're taken off the streets, preventing them from wreaking havoc in our communities. And at the end of the day, making sure that that we have control of our own community, safe place to raise a family, safe place to have a business, and that's what's most important.
Yeah, as we close out, it's one of those things that I think about, making sure that there's good communication and maybe finding a way to have those bond agencies, those bond systems, much like we did with pharmacy. You can't do polypharmacy anymore. You can't shop one pharmacy to the other. Maybe, just maybe, that's the process that they can use for bonding so that we don't have people coming out on 2 and 3 bonds at one time.